Hello and welcome to my discussion concerning traditional publishing versus self-publishing. My name is Mike Cantwell. I'm the author of 3 books, A Beautiful Song, 3 Long Days, and Soul Intentions, and I'm currently working on the sequel to Soul Intentions. I'd like to share with you some of the information that I've discovered concerning traditional publishing versus self-publishing. If you're new to publishing, hopefully I'll be able to offer you some information that you might not already have heard. If you are a seasoned writer and you've been published a few times, it's probably not a lot of information I'm going to offer here that you don't already know, but you're welcome to join us. When it comes to writing a book, whether you're going to traditionally publish it or self-publish it, by all means start with a good book. There's no excuse not to write a good book. If you have any talent for it at all, there's many resources that you can go to learn how to write even a better book. You can join writers groups, there's seminars that you can watch online, there's seminars you can go to, there's other books you can read. By all means, learn about your craft, learn to improve, try to get better, and write a good book. I will admit, when I wrote my first book, A Beautiful Song, I had no clue. I had no idea how to write a book. I just sat down and started writing it. Someone bet me I couldn't write a book, so I did. I think I've improved as a writer since then, but I've had to work at it. I've had to go to a writer's group. I've had to watch seminars. I've had to do all those things I've just spoke about in order to become a better writer. And with each passing book, I try to make it better in some way. Some of the advantages of traditional publishing. First and foremost is the prestige of it. A lot of times people are going to ask you, what's your book about? What's the title? Who's your publisher? It's usually high on the list. And traditional publishing still does have that prestige to it. No matter what anybody says, it's very prestigious to have your book published by Random House. It just is, or any other of the big New York-based or just big publishing companies. It does still carry a lot of prestige to do that. Another big advantage of traditional publishing is they're going to cover a lot of your costs. They're going to have a top-flight editor work on your book. They're going to have top-flight people work on your book cover and your design. They're going to know how to do this, more so than you starting out who's never done it before. They're going to know how to do it. They're going to have the right people, and it's just a big advantage of traditional publishing. If you're a details-oriented person versus a non-details-oriented person, that should have a lot to do whether you try traditional publishing or self-publishing. If you can't be bothered with the details, don't self-publish, because there's a lot of details that you have to follow up on, a lot of details that you have to pay attention to in order for your book to be successful as a self-publisher. So by all means, if you just want to write and that's all you care about, do everything you can to be traditionally published. And I firmly believe in that. If you're more of a person that you don't mind learning about how to find an editor, or you don't mind finding someone that can do your book cover, or you don't mind finding someone that can design your web page, maybe you can do all this yourself, then maybe you ought to look more into self-publishing. Because if you can figure all this stuff out on your own, you can learn how to do it on your own. Self-publishing might lend itself a little bit more to a type of person like you as to someone who just wants to write. There's a lot of people that will tell you a lot of different things when it comes to marketing a book. Some people are going to tell you, oh, traditional publishers are going to do all of that for you. Baloney. It's getting more and more to where traditional publishers expect you to have a lot of your own marketing done before you ever come to them, or before your agent ever comes to you or comes to them with a book idea. You already have to be on Twitter and be on Facebook, and you already have to have already started building your own platform. If you don't know what a platform is, learn about it. That'll be something we'll talk about in another discussion. However, building your book platform has to go along with writing your book. It doesn't matter whether you're traditionally published or whether you're self-published, you have to build a platform for that book. Now let's talk about some of the advantages of self-publishing. The big advantage is you keep control of everything. I've heard some horror stories about how traditional publishers wouldn't even let the author name the book the title they wanted to give it. You keep control of all that. You keep control of all the rights to your own work. With traditional publishing, you're going to give up some of the editorial control. Maybe if it's sold to a TV series or a movie down the road, you might lose some of the control of that. Where a self-publisher, you keep control of all that. Another big advantage is speed to the market. With traditional publishing, it might take a year, it might take 2 years. I even had one author tell me it took her 7 years to get a book to market. Now, granted, that's very rare. Typically, it's between a year to 2 years to get it out. Most books are going to come out around Christmas time, so depending on when your book is sold, it will depend on exactly how long it gets out to the market. However, speed to the market, self-publishing, once your book is finished and you're happy with it, you can have it on Amazon within a month, where traditional publishing is going to take a little bit longer than that. Another big advantage of self-publishing is instant feedback. The quicker you get your books on the market, the quicker you can start to get reviews, you can start to find out what people like about your writing, what people don't like about your writing. And so when you're working on books in the future, the quicker you get that feedback, the quicker you can adjust in your own writing. Now, you may not care. You may just keep writing the way you want to write, and feedback might not be that important to you, but at least with self-publishing, you'll get feedback a lot quicker. And here again, you can go to those websites like Autonomy and Wattpad, post your stuff, and you'll get feedback even quicker. One of the older problems with self-publishing was the stigma of, oh, well, you couldn't get a traditional publisher, and so you just self-published it. Well, a lot of that's gone away now because of the success of people like Amanda Hocking and John Locke and others that have literally sold 1 million ebooks and are very good writers. And so there are some people that have been very successful at self-publishing, and so a lot of that stigma has gone away. I mean, whether it's traditionally published or self-published, you're still going to find bad books. There's probably more bad books published on the self-publishing side than the traditional side, but there's also a lot of good books that are now being self-published. And because the fact that these self-publishing companies have gotten a lot better at what they do, and your product looks a lot better, the stigma of being self-published has started to be washed away, and the longer this goes on, the less and less you're going to have to worry about that. One of the things that you might want to do in order to erase some of that, and one of the things that I've done, is if you are to self-publish and you go to CreateSpace or Lulu or whoever it is, they'll give you a free what's called ISBN number, which is really just a tracking number for your book. They'll give you one for free, but they'll be listed as your publisher. What you should do is pay for your own ISBN number. Get your own. Create yourself as your own publisher. For myself, I've created KSM Publishing. That's my publishing company. And so when somebody asks me now, well, who published it? I don't tell them CreateSpace. I say KSM Publishing. I'm the publisher. That's my publishing company. Some people might see through that. Some people might not. They might say, oh, what's the name of your book? Soul Intentions. Who's your publisher? KSM Publishing. Oh, may not be Random House, but there's plenty of small name publishers out there, and KSM Publishing could very easily be just one of those. And over time, I hope it really is one of those other publishing companies where I might even offer to people to publish under KSM Publishing, and it really will be a publishing company someday, more than just my own books. There are advantages and there are disadvantages to traditional publishing versus self-publishing. Here again, it really depends on the type of person you are, how much work you want to do, especially when it comes to marketing. You really have to put a lot of effort into marketing your book, whether it's self-publishing or traditionally published. you have to spend a lot of time marketing your book. It's just the way it is. The more I read about it and the more I've listened to other people, you do have to market your own book. So just be aware of that. Be prepared of that. You're not going to stick it on Amazon and all of a sudden 1 million people are going to start buying your books. If you go and you search out these videos or web pages having to do with Amanda Hocking, who was one of the first successful self-publishing people in the last few years, she'll tell you that she spent 40 hours a week doing nothing but marketing her books. And now she's traditionally published and she's gotten away from that because she's been successful. She has the resources where she can just sit there and write her books now. But she also takes less of a royalty. Another advantage of self-publishing versus traditional publishing is in self-publishing you keep a lot more of your royalty, but you also have the upfront costs. You have to pay for an editor. You have to pay for a book designer. You have to pay for your web design. Now, if you can do some of that on your own and keep the costs down, more power to you, but you are going to have some upfront costs, where traditional publishing, you're not going to have any of those costs. Traditional publishers are going to take that risk away from you. They're going to take on the risk. Whereas self-publishing, you are taking on your own risk. However, down the road, if you were to be successful and you sold a lot of books, mathematically it works out to where unless you have a sweetheart deal and you're a big name author where they're giving you more of a royalty, you're going to make more money being a self-publisher. Just the math just works out that way if you sell a lot of books. If you only sell 20 books, it's going to be better to go with traditional. However, with traditional, they're certainly going to push you a lot harder than to sell 20 books. But if you were to sell 100,000 copies, if you were lucky enough and you marketed your books hard enough, you're going to make more money as a self-publisher than you would a traditional publisher, more than likely. So in closing, just a few odds and ends. For one, it's very frustrating. It doesn't matter which direction you go, it's frustrating. It's hard to get an agent. You have to learn about how to write query letters. It's hard to get a publisher. Even if you were to go to self-publishing route, there's a lot of differences between these self-publishing companies. Don't let anybody tell you that there's not. And here again, maybe we can talk about that another time. But there are differences between these self-publishing companies. Make yourself aware of it. Don't get screwed by these companies. Personally, I use CreateSpace. They've been very good to me. I really like them, and I would recommend them. But the big drawback to them is they only have paperbacks. They don't have hardcover books. So there are differences between these companies. But no matter which direction you go, it's frustrating. Don't quit. Don't give up on yourself. Keep working at it a little bit more each day and you'll get there. Start working on your book platform. If you don't know what that is, find out. It's very important. Start working on your social media, which is part of your platform. Get a Twitter account, get a LinkedIn account, get a Facebook account, get all these different things. Go on Goodreads, go on Autonomy, go on Wattpad. I have an account with all these places, and it's going to take a long time, but you really have to build all these things up. Go to Google+. There's all these places that you can go to give information about yourself. It also helps with your own web page because there's a thing called search engine optimization. And the more places you are on the internet, the more of a digital imprint you have, the more it's going to help your own web page. Try traditional publishing first. It's certainly not going to hurt. It may be frustrating. It may take you much longer, but why not try it? If it doesn't work out, you go to self-publishing. You can do that a lot quicker. However, if you are a detailed person and you do like to keep control of everything, well, you might be one that maybe should try self-publishing first. I've seen a lot of successful people now that have done both. Some things they do, they publish traditionally, and some they keep for themselves and do self-publishing. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do both. However, the bottom line is, if you have a good book and you want it to be read, prove to the world your writing should be read. Go out there, make a name for yourself, and do it. It's hard work. Don't let anybody try to tell you that it's not. Don't let anybody try to tell you, oh, I just wrote a book and I popped it up somewheres and all of a sudden all these people start reading it. Baloney. It's a lot of hard work, but you can get there.